Hello again guys, it's Corey here, and today we're going to be replacing the front brakes and rotors on this 2014 Chevrolet Cruze Diesel. So the first thing you want to do is break these lug nuts loose, and it's a 3/4. Fits over here nice and good, nice and snug. So we'll go ahead and break those loose, then we'll jack up the side here and take the wheel off. Alright, I just removed the wheel, but before I proceed any further, I just want to show you guys how I jack this up here with the floor jack. If you can see right under there, that pinch weld in the body, that's the jacking lift point right there. So to distribute the weight, I use this 2x4 on top of my jack, just like that. And then I lowered it. I stacked up some wood here. I have a couple 4x4s, a 2x4, and I have it resting right there. You can see that. So now it's safe and it's not going to go anywhere, so I can go ahead and proceed. Okay, the next step is to remove this caliper. So there are two 10mm bolts. There's one here and one right here. And don't forget about the brake line here. This simply just pulls right out of here, like so, because when you get the caliper off, you're going to want to swing it out of the way and then tie it off. I usually tie it off to the spring here with some string to get it out of the way. As you can see, I have the caliper secure. Just take some string, loop it around like so, and tie it off here. And I actually rest it on here like this, so the majority of the weight is right there, not on the string, but in case it were to fall, the string will actually hold it. So, and make sure you don't pinch your brake lines. So there we go. Now we can go ahead and remove these pads off the rotor. Okay, the next thing you have to do after you remove the pads is take this bracket off to remove the rotor. So we have two bolts in the back here. There's one right here. It's 21mm, and there's another one right there, and I already have it started. These are really tight. Now all I have is a deep well socket, so I use that, but I prefer to use a shorter socket on it. So, but yeah, these are in there pretty good. Now the reason they're in there so tight is they have some sort of Loctite on there, that yellow on the threads there, you can see. So I actually use this little 4-pound sledge here and hit my ratchet with it to break it loose. So whatever you need to do to get it done, but that's what worked for me. Now for the top bolt here, again I use the deep well and a little extension on the back here because my ratchet was actually hitting the side here of the strut. So now I have more clearance. Okay, now we can remove the rotor off the hub here, but we have to remove this T30 Torx screw. So I have this nice little kit here. It includes a bunch of sizes, and I grabbed the T30. And now we can go ahead and put it in there and loosen it, and the rotor should pop right off. Okay, the screw is out. Now the rotor should come right off. If you grab it with your hand and wiggle it, you can see it's still stuck on there. So to break it loose, I usually get a hammer, smack it like this. Eventually it'll work itself loose. Okay, the rotor is now loose. Just work it off the studs here. There we go. You can see the rust on the hub there. That's why the rotor sticks to it. On the inside of the rotor here. Now, these rotors were warped. That's why I'm replacing them. The pads here are okay, but I'm going to replace those as well. Here's the part number for the rotors I chose. These are EBC rotors. They're painted black with an anti-corrosive coating. And here are the pads I chose. That's the part number. So you can see here, the pads have some sort of break-in coating on here on the pad itself. I've never used EBC brakes, but I've heard nothing but good things about them, so I can't wait to try them out here. Now when installing the rotor here, it can only go on one way. You can see this hole right here is for the screw that holds it on, the hub. This part here. So that's the way it'll go on. So you take your rotor, simply slide it on the hub. There we go. Now we can put our screw back in. Alright, the next step would be to install this caliper bracket back on. Go ahead and get that into position and tighten up the two bolts. Alright, now we're ready for the pads. So if you look at the old pads here, this pad was on the inside. As you can see, this is where the piston was pushing on the pad. And this one had the wear sensor right here. And the one on the outside did not have the sensor. So grab your pad with the sensor, the new pad. You can see it right here. This is the part that rubs on the rotor once the pad wears down so far and makes that squealing noise. So this was on the inside, the one with the squealer. So we'll put that on the inside and this one on the outside. And these simply just rest in here. So you want to make sure these are clean and free of debris, and insert the pad in. Okay, the pads are in. Everything went well. Now the caliper is the next thing. So cut your string or however you tied it off here, and we're going to have to compress this cylinder here because the new pads are thicker than the old ones. So we need to squeeze this in. And I usually get a pair of channel locks and grip it right here and squeeze, and then you can slide the caliper right over top the new pads. So I take the channel locks like this, grab it right here and squeeze, and slowly the piston will push inside the caliper and you'll have enough clearance to slide it over top the new pads. Okay, once you get it lined up, go ahead and start a bolt in the top here. Same with the bottom, and tighten those up. Okay, everything's nice and tight, looks good. Now we can throw the wheel back on. Okay, the wheel is back on. Now be sure to torque your lug nuts to 100 foot-pounds. So I have my torque wrench here set. If you can read that, 100 foot-pounds. So make sure to do this in a crisscross pattern, so you could start here and work your way around like so. So once you do that, you're good to go. Same thing for the other side. And I appreciate you guys watching. Feel free to comment or subscribe. Take care, guys.